Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today's episode is episode 0.1, Keeping Up with the Hans, the Idea Pitch, Expanded Edition. Now the reason why I wanted to make a more detailed pitch is because of the fact that I felt that last time, the last episode I made, didn't quite go into detail as well as I wanted it to. Plus I've had exactly 40 days to go ahead and try and think up, of more stuff to go ahead and talk about. Today's show includes an 18-point program as to why I need, as much money as I do and what it's going to get spent on if I ever get it. Now, I just wanted to be clear that I have had a similar thing on LinkedIn, trying to pitch my idea for my show on LinkedIn. And of course, I've had over 970 impressions, 3 comments that didn't come from me, and no offers for funding. Nobody's emailed me offering funding. Nobody sent me any messages on LinkedIn offering funding. Yeah, it's bad. And I've messaged everyone. I've messaged venture capitalists. I've messaged angel investors. I've messaged sports stars. I've messaged celebrities. I've messaged people that have billions of dollars in the bank, and not a single person is interested in my show. Why? Honestly, I have no idea. My show is essentially my series, because I do have my computer open, so I got notes available. My series is focused on people who are fans of the legal immigration system, immigrating to America the right way. Alright? I'm not talking about border hopping. I'm not talking about seeking asylum in the United States after we're already there. No. I'm talking about immigrating from Vietnam to the United States the right way, using legal and legitimate immigration using approved methods. That's what I'm talking about. Now, see, here's the thing, though. I understand that not a lot of people are interested in that sort of thing. It's a niche market. But I feel that I have just as much of a right to tell my story and have my story on the internet versus someone who hops the border at the United States and then gets angry when they get deported. See, here's the thing. I've been married to my wife for over 7 years. And in that time, we have managed to produce 1 child within wedlock. And my daughter is turning 5 in November. Now, here's the thing. The problem that I face here in Vietnam is the fact of this. This is my problem right here. See, this, 1, 2, I speak natural American English. 3, I carry a U.S. passport. Now, 4, because I don't have a master's or a doctorate in a very highly specialized field. 5, I have no bachelor's degree. I have college trade certificates, which is legal to prove college education in Vietnam. I'm only allowed to work white monkey jobs. Now, yes, white monkey is an actual term that's used to describe anyone who has white skin that's normally hired for modeling, acting, or teaching English in Asian countries. Because having white employees means that company is legitimate, international, blah, blah, blah. See, here's the thing, though. I'm 40 years old. Even though I don't really act it, I actually am 40 years old. See, look, I got white, not gray, but white in my beard. All right, my hair is disappearing at an alarming rate. I used to have a nice widow's peak right here like a long time ago, and now it's almost all gone. So, yeah, I'm getting older. And I've come to realize that living in Vietnam is not all it's cracked up to be. Because of the fact that I'm not cute, young, single, I'm not female, I'm not childless, I'm not a Vietnamese citizen, I have no bachelor's degree, and I can't work a local job, you see, because of those reasons. And companies in the United States refuse to hire me because of the fact that I don't physically live in the United States. And this is for remote jobs. They won't hire me because I don't physically live in the United States. So I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. I'm not allowed to work. I'm not allowed to provide for my family. And I don't do white monkey work. If people want to hire me, they'll hire me because I know customer service like the back of my hand. If people want to hire me, it's because I know how to count money. If people want to hire me, they'll hire me because of the fact that I know how to show up for work on time. The only time I am ever late is if there's bad weather, bad traffic, funerals, road construction, or something similar. But I always try to leave my house at least a little early so that I still make it to work and I'm able to clock in on time. Now, to keep going, see, I've been unemployed since November 2024. And I've been searching for jobs since then, and nobody wants to hire me. All the experience that I have from the United States, and nobody wants to hire me. See, if you ever find your way to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see that, going backwards, from the first time I came to Vietnam up until November 2024, there's only one job, English teacher, and that's it. If you look at my American work experience, you'll see a bunch of jobs. Mostly low tier, like low skill, blue collar stuff, like working in factories, working at McDonald's, Burger King, Sonic, stuff like that. But the way I see it, that's a job. It's not the most glamorous job, and it doesn't pay that well, but it's a job. Here in Vietnam, you're only allowed to teach English. You're not allowed to do anything else. You're not allowed to have a local job. You're not allowed to work at a fast food joint. You're not allowed to do anything except teach English. And if you get burned out like me, you refuse to teach English like me, you don't want to do white monkey jobs anymore like me, then you're not allowed to work, period. Doesn't matter if you have a family to support. Doesn't matter if you're forced to live in a tiny room for over 5 years, going on 6 years. It doesn't matter that you have a kid that you need to support. Doesn't matter. If you refuse to do white monkey work, if you refuse to teach English, you don't work at all. And that's one of the reasons why I created this series, because I want to go back to America. I want to work, even if it's at McDonald's. You know, even if it's at Walmart or Hy-Vee or Price Cutter or, you know, some similar, you know, supermarket. Kroger, Dillon's, you know. Even if it's at a place like that, that's still more preferable to me than not working at all. I hate not working. Now, see, I know that even my haters have found my YouTube channel. And you would think that they would actually be happy to see me go. But the way I see it, more than likely, they'll be just as happy either way. Either happy that I'm in misery because I'm not allowed to work and I can't provide for my family, or they'll be happy to see me go and not come back. Now, see, a lot of people on the internet, you know, especially on LinkedIn, I've actually tried to message several venture capitalists and several angel investors, and nobody wants to talk to me. There was, however, one who invited me to make a full pitch, and I'm not going to say who it was. This person and company asked me to make a full pitch. I did. Has not responded to my LinkedIn messages. Sent an email to this person's email address. And I got an email back saying that, you know, they'll review the messages and then they'll decide whether or not it fits with their thesis for investment. And I go, okay, well, you know, I'm pretty sure that's a no, but in a gentle way, because I'm not a business. I have no equity. I have nothing that can be borrowed against. And this is, you know, this is just a show. You know, it's not the latest, greatest AI whatever that everyone else wants to go ahead and try and sell. See, I hate AI. I hate AI with a passion. I don't use AI. I don't have it on my computer. I don't have it on my phone. I refuse to use it at all for anything. All right? So, yeah, my show is not about the latest, greatest AI whatever. It's about a fat, unattractive, married guy trying to get his family to the U.S. That's it. That's all it is. Now, see, this show, I need, and I know this is going to sound absurd to a lot of people, but I'm going to go ahead and just say it out, that my show needs $2 million, or more, preferably, but $2 million to run. And I'm talking about $2 million total, not per episode. And I would prefer that to be after taxes with royalties, if I ever get a network deal, to go ahead and run my show. Now, why only $2 million total? Well, it's simple. See, half of that is going to be paid for taxes, right off the top. Because the U.S. government, because even though I live in Vietnam as a U.S. citizen, I still have to go ahead and pay taxes to the U.S. government. So U.S. government gets about 35%, approximately. I'm just naming a number. Vietnamese government gets 10% because I live in Vietnam. The other 5% is for currency conversion fees or anything else that might pop up. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation. See, here's the thing. As I said earlier, my series is focused on people who are fans of the legal immigration system, immigrating to America the right way. I do acknowledge that my price tag is quite steep. However, all of it goes to a good cause, in my opinion, which is getting my small family to the U.S. and documenting every step along the way, no matter how small the details. In my 40 years on this earth, I've watched a lot of media, including movies, TV shows, YouTube shows, etc., and I can say with certainty that I've never watched a series like what I'm talking about, not once. Now, see, the only thing that even comes close to my series idea is what's called 90 Day Fiancé, but I'm way past that. Been married over 7 years, going on 8 years this November. So way past the 90 Day Fiancé thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. So, yeah. And yes, I am reading from my computer, which is behind the cell phone camera. I can't really show it to you because it's on a stand. That's why you see both my hands. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read, but, you get to go ahead and see my face. So, and I got the wireless mouse, so yeah, that's pretty cool. So I know that $2,000 USD is a very large amount of money. The reason why I set that price for the entire series is simply this. I have no genuine idea how much it will cost. Much, not mush. Alright, so there we go. So, alright. So, idea how much it will cost. I don't know if the procedure will be smooth sailing or rough seas, which makes a huge difference in cost. What I do know is that I have all the proper paperwork and photos, because photos are important, to prove that I have a bona fide marriage, which is required under U.S. law for immigration. Plus, I plan to transfer citizenship to my daughter during the same period, so that will strengthen my wife's case for permanent residency. And I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit more about that here later on. However, the only thing that may count against me, like that might hurt my case, is the fact that I have no assets in the U.S. and have not lived in the U.S. for almost 8 years. I have no U.S. residency, no U.S. bank account, no U.S. phone number. I have nothing that ties me to the U.S. for almost 8 years. So let's say that some venture capitalist, some angel investor, somebody with billions of dollars decides that they want to go ahead and fund my series, like completely fund my series. If it's at least $2 million, great. More than $2 million, fantastic. All right. So let's say that somebody decides they want to go ahead and fund my series. All right. What happens next? So it depends. First one is that it depends on if taxes need to be paid on this amount. If I am sent more than $2 million USD, then I have more to spend on the series. If I am only sent $2 million USD for funding, half of it will need to be used to pay taxes, as I mentioned earlier, to the U.S. government, roughly 35% or so, Vietnamese government, 10%. The other 5% is for currency conversion fees and anything else that may pop up. Next, I will enlist the help of a certain lawyer, who I'm not going to name right now. I mean, maybe you can see the screen, maybe not. But I'm going to enlist the help of a certain lawyer here in Ho Chi Minh City, who is quite skilled in immigration as well as taxes and other things that deal with foreigners. So I'm going to enlist the help of this certain lawyer to assist me in paying taxes to both the Vietnamese government and American governments. Why is this important? This is the part where you need to pay attention. Why is this important? Because by paying taxes, I'm showing proof of assets, which is necessary in immigration cases where the rule is 200,000 USD or greater in assets or 20,000 USD yearly salary. So by paying taxes, I can prove that I have at least 200,000 USD, which is the threshold for citizenship or green card citizenship cases, stuff like that. Now, so here's the thing. earlier, I went and stated about, pictures, proper documents, and stuff like that. See, under U.S. immigration law, from what I understand, remember, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not certified to practice law. This is just something I know. All right. So if you have proper documents, lots of pictures, and I mean lots of pictures, and you can go ahead and prove assets, like I said, either greater than 200,000 USD or 20,000 or more yearly salary, that will definitely help your case. All right. Now, there's no guarantee, but it will definitely help your case if you can go ahead and prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are married to someone else and it's a genuine bona fide marriage. Now, moving on. So, say for instance that I have the $2 million. All right. Half of that goes for taxes. So I go ahead and the very first thing I pay, like the very first thing I'll pay, is the attorney fees. Because you have to pay the attorney fees first before you pay taxes. So the attorney fees that I would pay at least 4 different ones. First fee is for the initial consultation. Okay? Second fee is to pay taxes. Plus, the attorney fees on top of that. Third is to transfer citizenship to my daughter and the fees associated with that. Then last one is to essentially use the previous two, the, taxes and then the transfer of citizenship for my daughter, to go ahead and use for case number 4, which is to get a green card, a U.S. green card for my wife. Each one has to follow in sequence, okay? Because by paying taxes, I prove assets. By paying assets, that helps transfer citizenship to my daughter because of the fact that I can prove to the U.S. courts and the U.S. immigration system that I can take care of my daughter. And then after that, by proving assets, by proving I can take care of my daughter and giving citizenship to my daughter, that makes the case for my wife's green card that much stronger. So everything has to follow in sequence. All right, now, so moving on. So first thing I do is pay taxes. Well, pay the attorney fees. Then pay taxes to prove assets. Then go ahead and pay to transfer citizenship to my daughter. Then go ahead and pay again to go ahead and get the green card for my wife in sequence. Then after that, I'm going to pay off all the debt that my wife and I owe to everyone here in Vietnam. Now the current debt that we owe is about 500 million VND, or about $18,518.52 to my wife's parents for allowing us to stay in their house for over 7 years, essentially rent-free, considering the house that I first moved into when I first got to Vietnam and the new construction house, which we moved into in October 2020. We do give them some money when we can from time to time, but it's not much. The same amount, 500 million VND, or $18,518.52 to my wife's sister for all the money she let us borrow over the years. And the same amount yet again, 500 million VND, or $18,518.52 to a small local Buddhist temple so that they can do charitable things with it as well as pay for things that the temple needs. We will also pay off the credit card, which, last time I checked anyways, still has a due balance of over 30 million VND, or $1,111.11. Now, how do I calculate that? It's simple. See, I calculate it as 1 USD equals 27,000 Vietnam dong. Now, I know that that's not the current exchange rate, but that's how I think of it, just to go ahead and ease my mind. All right, it's simple, easy math. Now, reason why it's important for me to pay off debt after everything else, after the first part's taken care of, is because of the fact that you can't start a new life with a clean slate if you still have debt. Now, see, the thing is, though, that this debt isn't on paper, but at the same time, it's more of a moral thing. You see what I mean? Plus, donating money to a small Buddhist temple, to me, is a lot better than donating to some big-name charity, because of the fact that with most charities, you don't know where that money actually goes. And I can list several examples, but I'm not really going to list them here. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, pay off debt, it's good karma, basically. Now, see, I'm not Buddhist myself, but my wife is. And I honor her faith. That's the reason why I wear Buddhist things, including this ring. This ring actually got on Vesak Day, Lord Buddha's birthday, about 6 or 7 years ago. Now, the reason why is because of the fact that it is stainless steel and it's something I can wear. See, my skin is very allergic to silver, cheap metals like nickel, tin, stuff like that. I can only wear stainless steel, wooden jewelry, or gold. And since I'm not rich enough to own any gold, that's why I wear stuff like this. All wood. Now this, I don't know what this is made out of, but my skin doesn't react to it, so it might be made out of like chromiated plastic or something. I can wear this without a problem. That's wood. And then this, which if anybody knows what this is actually a Buddhist rosary, which is about 108 beads. And I wear it because, like I said, I honor my wife's religion. That's the reason why I wear stuff like this. Now, that brings me to my next point, which is buy wedding rings. This is point number 5. Buy wedding rings. See, it's been a sad point in my marriage that I've never been able to give my wife a proper wedding ring. Not once. I married my wife with a jewelry set I got from Wally World, what we call Walmart in the United States. That looked nice. If I remember rightly, I think it was silver, rhodium plating with I can't think of the name of the cut for the cubic zirconia in the middle, but it kind of looks like an eye, but tilted, like, so it's not like this, it's like this. And essentially, I've never been able to get my wife a proper wedding ring. Not once. In all the time I've been here in Vietnam, I've never been able to earn enough money to get my wife a proper wedding ring. What I want is to buy a couple's set. Gold. Because gold is something that I can wear. And white gold too. White gold is something I can wear also. I want the couple set to have a diamond in it for my wife. Because, I'm kind of traditional in that way that a woman's wedding ring should have a diamond in it. It doesn't have to be gigantic, but as long as it has a diamond in it. Now me, I don't care about diamonds or anything like that. Just a plain gold band for me. That's all I want. Nothing too big, too flashy, too showy. Just something that is gold and something I can wear on my, ring finger. So, yeah, that's all I want. Now, some gold earrings would also be nice for the both of us because my wife has her ears pierced. I have my ears pierced. I just don't wear anything in them right now. Now, I do have some earrings that I bought from way back in 2009. That's 14 karat white gold with aquamarine stones in them. But I don't really wear them that often except for, very special occasions. Alright. See, I want this couple set to be something my wife will be proud of for decades to come. Like, I want my wife to always look at her ring with pride every time she sees it. That's what I want. Now, the thing is, though, is the fact that I know that for some people, they would think of this as being frivolous. But at the same time, the only thing I see that's frivolous about point number 5 is the gold earrings. Because, yeah, they're not really necessary, but it's just something to look nice. But the wedding rings, I think, are 100% necessary. Because, yes, I do wear a ring on my, wedding ring finger. But at the same time, it's not gold. It's stainless steel. And my wife doesn't wear anything because of the fact that she can't find anything that fits her finger. She has like a oddly sized finger that's a little smaller than what's available. And that's the reason why she doesn't wear anything. So, alright, moving on. Point number 6. Buying new cell phones and laptops. See, the cell phone that I'm currently using is Honestly, I don't remember how old it is. I think this cell phone is about 4 years old, thereabouts. Roughly about as old as my daughter is. Because I think that, because I got this is the A73 Awesome Edition. Like A736B. And yeah, it's quite old. I mean, it works, it does what I want it to, but at the same time, if you actually read the terms and conditions from Samsung, the average handset, which is what a cell phone is called, is only guaranteed to last for about 3 years, and this cell phone's on its 4th year. So yeah, I'm on borrowed time with this cell phone. Laptop, I don't know exactly how long it's supposed to last, but the laptop I have is an Asus laptop, and that is similarly about, well, I think it's about at least, oh shoot, I think the laptop's at least 5 years old, but it still works. It just needs a little bit of work done to it. So, all right, let me continue. So, buying new cell phones and laptops. My wife's laptop is over 15 years old. 15 years old. Now, see, she bought the laptop, I think it was back in 2013. No, it wouldn't be 15. It'd be like 13, 12 years old. Because she bought the laptop back in 2013, and it still works. It's just extremely slow because it's full, too many installed programs, stuff like that. My laptop is, yeah, it's at least 5 years old. Maybe 6, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't pay attention to stuff like that. My wife's cell phone is over a year old because I bought it in November 2024. Mine's over 4 years old, still works. Now, for the purposes of my series, having new equipment means that we don't have to worry about equipment failures. I don't want to be in the middle of shooting my series, because see, the entire premise of my series is to be shot on cell phones, not professional equipment or anything like that. And here in Vietnam, the thing is, though, is the fact that Vietnam is extremely strict when it comes to filming. And, yeah, unlike in America, you're not allowed to film anything you can see in public. Okay? Here in Vietnam, you're not allowed to film anything you can see in public. It's like if you're a tourist, that's one thing. Nobody really cares. But if you have professional equipment like a film crew, stuff like that, you have to get permission from certain government agencies. You have to get film licenses, stuff like that. Of course, it has to be reviewed before it can be published. All that kind of stuff. But filming with cell phones is a different story. So the Vietnamese portion of, season 0, or the first part, that's going to be filmed essentially as a video diary, because of the fact that everything is so strict here in Vietnam concerning filming laws, and I don't want to break any laws, so everything has to be done correctly. Now, season 1, or actively going to America, that will have a little bit more freedom, because of the fact that I'll be able to film on the airplane, like make an episode on the airplane. That will be from Tan Son Nhut International Airport to Incheon, South Korea. That's the route that I want. Now, see, there's 3 different routes available. From Tan Son Nhut to Incheon, from Tan Son Nhut to Narita in Japan, and then Tan Son Nhut to Hong Kong. Now, I don't want Narita because there's a possibility that I might need a visa to travel through there, and I have no intention of leaving the airport. My wife and my daughter have no intention of leaving the airport. So I don't want to apply for a separate visa and pay even more money just to be able to transit through the airport. And I'm certainly not going to Hong Kong. All right, I'm not going to go ahead and say why, because that's kind of private. But suffice it to say that I don't want to travel through Hong Kong. So the best route is from Tan Son Nhut Airport to Incheon in South Korea. Then Incheon, 14-hour flight to Atlanta, which is the port of entry for that particular flight. Now, I have read a lot of reviews online about the Atlanta International Airport, and I remember on my way to Vietnam back in 2018 how huge the airport is. I mean, to me, it was gigantic. I still found my flight, obviously, but coming from Vietnam to the United States is going to be a different story, because then you have to deal with U.S. Customs. Now, see, obviously, planning everything to go smoothly, my wife has her green card, my daughter has citizenship, so my daughter comes with me. Wife has green card also with me. We all go up to the counter as a family Simply present our passports. My wife presents her green card. Everything's good. They're like, welcome to America. And then we go on to our connecting flight to the final part of the journey. Now, the final part of the journey, I'm not going to reveal just yet. But anyone who I've been in contact with recently knows where it is. Now, my goal is to film an episode from Tansanat to Incheon on the airplane, from Incheon to Atlanta, which is another episode, and then the third part is from Atlanta to the final destination, and then on arrival at the final destination, another episode, which might not be that long, but essentially what I plan is that I want to go ahead and film meeting one of my best friends and his mom that I haven't seen in the time since I've been in Vietnam. Now, I've known this one best friend plus his mom. I've known them both for going on 13 years. Yeah, long time. And essentially, I plan that after I go ahead and touch down with my family, we meet, have the reunion, go to Waffle House, and just get stuffed. If not Waffle House, then an American diner whose name I've forgotten. I think it's like Eddie's or something like that. And essentially, after we stuff ourselves, then we go to the hotel and check in. And then, that starts the next series, which is series 2 or season 2, whatever you want to call it, in America. So, yeah. So, essentially, the equipment that I want to get is the new Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra with the 1 terabyte storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM for both my wife and myself. Reason why is because that's the top of the line flagship model cell phone for Samsung. I don't buy anything Apple. I won't buy the iPhone. I won't buy the MacBook. I won't buy anything related to, Apple, Macintosh. I won't buy anything related to that at all. Why? That's private. But suffice it to say, I won't buy that. Now, for new laptops, I want to get a new laptop for my wife as well as myself, clone the hard drives, and then install the cloned hard drive into the new computer so that way we can just pick up right where we left off. Now, for new laptops, I prefer a gaming type laptop as I want at least 1 terabyte of storage, preferably 8. But, the solid state drives, NVMe solid state drives, I don't think they go above 4. But yeah, I'd want as much storage space as possible and at least 64 gigabytes of RAM. Now, I don't play online games. I just want my laptop to not lag when I need it to work for me, because sometimes I might have a lot of tabs open, a lot of apps open, stuff like that, and I don't want it to lag. Now, to be very clear, just like I said last time, I will not have AI enabled on any cell phone, any laptop that I own. So when I get these computers, laptops, and cell phones, I'm going to disable the AI, delete the AI if possible. If not, then I'm going to have it force quarantine so that it won't work. Now, I know that may cause some other problem, some other apps to not work, but I don't care because I don't use AI. I don't need AI. All right, I refuse to succumb to brain rot. Other people think that AI is great. That's great, but I don't use AI and I refuse. So, yeah. Now, moving on. So that brings me to point number 7. As I mentioned earlier, the entire series will be filmed on cell phones. Due to strict filming laws here in Vietnam, the Stage 0 or preparing to go to America portion will essentially be a video diary. Stage 1 or actively going to America will have much more freedom to film in public, on the flights and in the airports, and Stage 2 or after arrival in America is where the real fun begins. And that's pretty much everything that I explained earlier. All right. All right, moving on. So, point number 8. Once my daughter has citizenship and my wife is approved for her green card, I will buy 3 business class one-way plane tickets, preferably first class if possible, from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, SGN, to the final destination, which I'm not going to mention just yet, and a temporary hotel stay for 21 days after we arrive at the final destination. Now, the reason why I want business class tickets, minimum, yet if I could get them, first class tickets would be best. See, this may be the only time that I will be able to fly my family from one location to the other in comfort. So I want it to be the best experience possible. Not only that, my daughter is 4 years old and flying for the first time, so it may be a very scary experience for her. And she's a kid, so it might be great for her because she loves airplanes, but she's never been on an airplane before. So I don't know how she's going to react. So essentially, as I mentioned earlier, there will be at least 2 transfers minimum. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the route that I want is from Ho Chi Minh City to Incheon in South Korea, then Incheon to Atlanta, then Atlanta to the final destination. The main reason why I want this route is because since I'm a U.S. citizen, there are no additional visas required since I'm just passing through on transition from one airport to the next with no intention of leaving the airport. Now, for Incheon, South Korea, U.S. citizens are not required to have a visa. It's just basically, I think visa free for 90 days. But since we're staying in the airport for less than 24 hours, it's perfectly fine. And essentially, 2, since my wife is Vietnamese, plus the fact she'll have a U.S. green card at that point, she may also likewise not need a visa, and my daughter at that point having American citizenship will similarly not need a visa. So less paperwork, less money involved. Point number 9, a modestly priced house at the final destination. Now my definition of a modestly or moderately priced house is something under 300,000 USD. 3 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, central HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning required. Basement would be nice. Real bonus if the basement was, fully finished, like a fully finished basement. Fenced in backyard, and location of said house will be in a decent neighborhood. I don't want a crap neighborhood. I've lived in crap neighborhoods before, and trust me, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Alright, so yeah, it has to be at least in a somewhat decent neighborhood. Now, I've been on Zillow, which, is, they show a lot of houses on Zillow. And, I've seen some houses, that go for $100,000. Now, I'd rather own a house than a trailer. And if you've lived in a trailer before, you know exactly why they aren't really that great for long-term living. Because of the fact that eventually the houses break down. And after 20, 30 years, you have to remodel it, replace a bunch of crap in order to go ahead and keep it going. Now, for houses, they're a lot sturdier, especially if a tornado happens, which, the place where I live, where I plan to move my family to is in Tornado Alley in that one strip of the United States. So we would need a house, preferably one that has a basement, because if a tornado happens, the basement is the safest place in the house to be. So I don't want a trailer house, like I mentioned earlier, even brand new ones. They don't last over 20 years without renovations, and they aren't safe when tornadoes strike. Now, here's where the 21-day hotel stay comes into effect. Last time I checked, I admit freely I could be wrong about this, a house purchased via a straight sale, which is defined as 0 mortgages or other lending types involved, house price balance immediately paid in full via cash, check, or some other means that can assure immediate payment up front. Takes around 7 to 10 business days minimum. Longer if there are any issues which need to be addressed and handled prior to closing, such as if there's something wrong with the foundation, if there's something wrong with the house itself that wasn't caught in time. Because see, whenever a house is sold, it's always inspected. If there's any problems with the electrical, if there's any problems with the roof, the HVAC system, or anything like that, then that could prevent the sale of the house. So it could be longer if problems are found during the inspection. Now see, when I have a house inspected, I want the inspector to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. And if he sees anything, if it's minor, it's something that can be easily fixed and it won't cost that much, yeah, I'll take care of it. I don't care. Pay to have it fixed, have them come by again, inspect the house. But if it's something major, then I won't go through with the sale. Because that means that somebody was trying to rip me off, and I don't like that. But if it's something minor, something that's easily fixable, something that doesn't cost that much, then yeah, I'll pay for it. Not a problem. So essentially, the straight sale takes around 7 to 10 business days minimum, longer if there are any issues which need to be addressed and handled prior to closing, meaning about 1.5 to 2 weeks, so about 14 days total. Because remember, a business week is only 5 days, Monday through Friday. All right, 7 to 10 business days means at least, 1.5 to 2 weeks. Well, technically 7 business days to 10 business days, which is about, 1.33, like 1.33 to 2 business weeks total. So that's about 14 days, if you use the regular calendar. Now, moving on to point number 10, we need to pay taxes and fees for that house during this 14-day period during the sale of the house, which afterwards the house is transferred into both my name and my wife's name because everything will have both our names on it. Now, some people would say, well, you need to have it in your name only in case anything bad happens, blah, blah, blah. Well, see, here in Vietnam is the same as what's in the United States, 50-50. And if you know, you know, it's 50-50. All right, so if anything bad happens, it's still 50-50 because we don't have a prenup agreement. So it's all 50-50. Now, so pay taxes and fees for that house during this time period. Also property taxes, stuff like that. So everything will be in both our names. The house will be paid up. Everything's good. Move on to point 11. After everything is paid and the house is free and clear in my name as well as my wife's name, we will also set up, start, and maintain homeowners insurance and standard utilities such as water, gas, electricity, trash, landline phone, internet, preferably fiber optic if it's in the area, and cable TV standard package. Now, some people might wonder, why do you want a landline phone? That's from the 1960s. Why do you need a landline phone? Well, it's very simple. See, unless it's an emergency, then you can go ahead and call my house. See, only people that are really close to me will have my cell phone number. Places like my job and everything like that will have my landline number. Now, see, I don't want my job to contact me after hours because I have the right to disconnect. If it's an emergency, that might be a different story, but I don't want people calling my cell phone. I don't want people texting me and nothing like that. My job, any other place, yeah, you get my landline phone. You don't get my cell phone. Only my wife's family, and the few members of my family that I actually talk to, they are the ones who are going to get my cell phone number. So they can contact me whenever they want. But other than that, and obviously my best friend and his mom, they'll have my cell number. But, my job or any other place like that, bank, utilities, anything like that, they get the landline number. All right, so landline number is essential also because what happens if the cell phones go down? You see, that's one of the things that not a lot of people think about. See, landline phones have their own power source. They're completely self-contained. Now, the old receivers, the ones that, have the long cord, you know what I mean? Those ones have power that run through the phone line itself. So it doesn't matter if the cell phones go out, you still have a means to call someone. Now, I know it's old-fashioned, but it works. That's the reason why I want a landline phone with unlimited local, unlimited long distance, and maybe unlimited international calling too. Just depends on how much that would cost a month and how often we actually use it, All right, so now the internet, normally what's available is cable internet or broadband. Fiber optic is still somewhat new, and not every neighborhood has it. So if we had fiber optic internet, that would be fantastic because the speeds are blazing fast. And, where broadband is concerned, like broadband is a bicycle compared to fiber optic, which is like a rocket ship. So, yeah, that's the only way I could put it where people can understand it. Now, moving on to point number 12. All right, no, scratch that. So, still staying on point number 11, cable TV standard package. See, even though I don't really watch TV that much, I still want the TV available anyways, just for my daughter, pretty much, because I don't really want her watching, internet, like YouTube and crap like that. So instead, I could put on like Cartoon Network or something that's appropriate for kids to watch, so she can at least watch that, and I could watch the news, so I can go and keep up on what the news is talking about and everything. So get utilities started, pay homeowners insurance, stuff like that. Now homeowners insurance, I'd want the full package because of the fact that the area in which I want to move into isn't really known for flooding or fires or anything like that, but damage from nature can still happen because of tornadoes. So if I can get some kind of tornado insurance or something like that to go with the house, that would be great. Falling tree limbs, normally acts of nature aren't covered, but sometimes some insurance companies will cover it. It just depends. Also the age of the house. If the house was made before, I think it was like 1970, you have to sign a disclosure about lead paint. So, yeah, lots of different things to consider. All right, so point number 12. After the 14-day period, but before the 21-day period expires, before moving in, having a company called Merry Maids or something similar come in and professionally clean the house from top to bottom. And this means every nook, cranny, pane of glass, mirror, baseboard. I mean, thorough, fine-tooth comb cleaning, like clean the house from top to bottom. Shampoo, wash the carpets. I want everything as clean as possible. All right. Then, once that is done, call in another company called Orkin, Orkin, or equivalent extermination company, to spray the inside and outside of the house for bugs. And I'm talking about German cockroaches, palmetto bugs, which are the giant brown cockroaches. I'm talking about silverfish, which are American centipedes. I'm talking about ants, all kinds of insects that you really don't want in your house. All right, so that's what I'm talking about. Spray the inside, spray the outside, and then set up a recurring plan where they come back out and spray your house about every 90 days or so. That's what I want. Now, the reason why I want that is because I want, before we even move in, I want the house to be clean, spotless, no bugs, nothing like that. Because if you've lived in America for any period of time like me, you'd know how filthy some areas get and how filthy some people get. And when they move out, the bugs are still there even though they're not there anymore. So, yeah. Now, see, once the Merry Maids and once Orkin is finished, then my family and I go to a furniture store like Ashley Home Furniture or something similar and buy a complete house set. Like a complete house set. I'm talking about living room furniture, kitchen furniture, bedroom furniture, the box springs, bed sets, buying new beds, the mattresses, the whole bit, and have it professionally set up. So all we do is sit back and enjoy while the installers do everything. And the reason why is because of the fact that, see, I'm perfectly happy with going to a secondhand store and getting some furniture from, say, like the Salvation Army or the Goodwill or something like that. I'm happy with that. I don't mind that. But my wife may not be. And I don't want to buy something if she's not going to be happy with it. So I figure if it's something brand new and it's something that goes with the house and something she likes, that's great. Because I'm happy with new furniture. I'm also happy with used furniture as long as it's in good shape. So it's whatever. All right, that's what I'm trying to say. It's whatever. So essentially, like I said earlier, contact a company that deals with home furniture, buy a whole house set, maybe a second living room set, and have it placed in the basement, and have it professionally set up. Now, point number 13, moving day. When we move into our new home, we buy new clothes, groceries, appliances if we need it, bathroom things, etc., more than likely from Wally World, and set the house up the way we want it. So here's the thing. Moving into a house, it's a big deal because of the fact that a lot of people, they always have this idea about how they move into their house and how it's supposed to be. Now, what I want you to remember is the fact that in this scenario, my family has already spent at least 21 days inside of a hotel. All right. Now, even though that's fantastic in some regards, it's actually stressful in others. We set up everything, we do everything right, and then we go ahead and actually move into the house itself. Now, I don't know why anyone would want to spend 21 days inside a hotel room unless it was absolutely necessary. But anyways, so 21 days, then we move into the house. We go ahead and buy a bunch of other stuff. We go ahead and, move in. We're happy. We're in the house. We get to making our beds, take a shower in the new bathroom, stuff like that. Now, see, moving on to point number 14. I admit that this should be done earlier. However, I could also set it up later. And this is what I was going to talk about. In the first video, I talked about setting up an American bank account here in Vietnam, which you can't do. See, there are some banks here that have branch offices in the United States, like Standard Chartered, like I mentioned in the last video. However, the problem is the fact that if a bank account is set up here in Vietnam, it has to follow Vietnamese banking rules, not American banking rules. Now, Standard Chartered is actually a UK bank, not an American bank. But any bank account that's set up here in Vietnam has to follow Vietnamese banking rules, and I'm just not happy with that. So I'd rather just set up the bank account when I get to the United States. Now, what I want to do is essentially avoid paying the international bank transfer fees, but I think that might be the only option because of the fact that I can't set up an account here in Vietnam and then be able to use that account in America the same way. It's a lot of banking rules and regulations that I'm not really sure about, but suffice it to say, it's unavoidable. I will have to pay the 3% international bank transfer fee, and that also depends on how much I'm allowed to withdraw. So, yeah. Alright, so moving on. I'm just going to go ahead and read point number 14. Point number 14. I admit that this should be done earlier, however, I can also set it up later. What I want to do is not only get a bank account for myself, but also one for my wife and one for my daughter too. After this, I want to set up a secured credit card to boost our credit ratings. When the setup is complete, I will empty out the Vietnamese bank account and transfer everything remaining to my U.S. bank account. Alternatively, I was thinking about emptying the bank account before my family and I fly to the U.S., but traveling with that much money is quite dangerous. Yeah, don't do it. Even if you have a letter from the bank saying where you got the money from, that you already paid taxes on it and everything like that, there's a possibility it could be confiscated at the airport and then you get nothing. So yeah, it's best just to let it sit in the account, transfer it, and then that's that. So yeah. Now here's the thing about secured credit cards. See, in America, credit is required for just about everything. Setting up a bank account, renting an apartment, like other stuff, but credit is required. And if you don't have credit, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do things. Now, some secured credit cards, how I remember some of them work is like, say, you have a secured credit card of $100. Every month, you deposit $100 into the secured credit card. And then at the end of the year, it makes the funds available for withdrawal, and they report positively each month to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax about your credit score in a positive way so that your credit builds. What I would want to do if I could find a secured credit card like that is to do a $5,000 limit for my wife, my daughter, and myself. Now, why do I want to give my daughter a secured credit card even though she's only 4 years old? Because of the fact that as long as the money is locked, like it's in a feeder account, okay, and it goes ahead and feeds the secured credit card and it cycles through, you see, and then at the end of the year, the money is taken out of the secured credit card, placed back to the feeder account, and then it begins to cycle all over again. After about 14 years or so, when my daughter turns 18, her credit's going to be immaculate, and that'll help her out when she needs to rent an apartment when she goes to college. And it'll help out my wife, it'll help me out, because if we have perfect credit, we could demonstrate we could pay $5,000 a month every month for 14 years. Our credit's going to be immaculate, and we're going to have credit card offers out the wazoo. Now, I don't recommend ever getting a credit card because of the fact that, to me, it's one of those things designed to keep you in debt. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have to prove how good you are getting into debt just to get out of debt. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend an unsecured credit card. If anything, just do the secured route. That's a lot easier because at least you can guarantee the money. So yeah, moving on. So point number 15. My wife and I will enroll our daughter in school so she can go to first grade, if not kindergarten class, because she turns 5 in November. So maybe kindergarten first and then first grade later on. See, I want my daughter to have an American education. That's what I want. I want my daughter to have an American education. Now, an American education is actually comparable to the private schools or international schools here in Vietnam. It's comparable. Now, the thing is, though, is the fact that with my daughter having an American education, that means she's going to be better able to handle life versus if she graduates from a public high school here in Vietnam. Because Vietnamese public education is not the same as American public education, not by a long shot. That's why I said that American public education is comparable to the private schools and international schools here in Vietnam. It cannot compare to Vietnamese public school education. Now, I want my daughter to have a great future. That's the other reason why I want her to have American education. There's also a few other points that I disagree with, which I'm not really going to get into right now, but suffice to say, I want my daughter to have an American education. Point number 16. Buying 2 decently used cars, one for my wife and one for myself, so we can get our daughter to and from school as well as work. This also means paying for driver's license education courses first. Since I still have my old license from the state I used to live in before I came to Vietnam, for me it'll just be getting my chauffeur's license back, though I don't intend to drive people around anymore, I still want it anyways, and a regular driver's license for my wife. Both of us will need steady and reliable transportation, as both of us will be working normal jobs. I want either a 2001 Mercury Grand Marquis LS with the on the Panther platform, or an 80s to 90s model Ford F-150 XLT Lariat with the extended cab, extended bed, dual gas tank, preferably a 4x4. You know, a farm truck. That's what I want, because I always like them kind of trucks. My wife will choose what type of vehicle she wants. Of course, I'll give recommendations, but ultimately it'll be her choice. I also want full insurance on both vehicles so that we will be covered in the event of an accident with an uninsured, underinsured driver. In the past, I could only afford state minimum coverage, so full coverage would be nice. Now, if you know anything about American insurance, you realize that there are 2 options. You got state minimum or full insurance. Full insurance will cover you in several different ways, especially underinsured motorists. If there's a bad accident, stuff like that. I'd recommend full coverage if you can afford it, but 9 times out of 10 people can't, so they only get the state minimum, which is like $25,000, like $25,000. So yeah, having full coverage would be nice. Even though it'd be on a much older vehicle, it's still nice. Now, the reason why I want an old vehicle like that is because of the fact that there's less electronics. There's no camera, there's no AI, there's no, driver monitoring system to determine whether or not you're sleepy or anything like that. It's just a car or a truck. That's it. Now, point number 17, purchasing health and life insurance if my wife's job and my job does not provide it as part of their benefits package. Because of the money in the bank and total assets, we will not qualify for state assistance. See, Wally World is famous for not paying their workers enough. And because of that, they automatically teach you how to apply for welfare. Now, why? Because the U.S. government directly subsidizes Walmart. So they can afford to give, low prices on the products they sell, which in turn means low salary for their employees, which in turn means employees have to sign up for food stamps and Medicaid and stuff like that. But because of the money and the assets, we wouldn't qualify for that. So if we can't get health and life insurance as a part of the benefits package for the company we're signing up for, then we would have to buy it ourselves. Why is this important? Very simple. See, health insurance in America is actually necessary. I mean, required is too strong of a word because a lot of people go without it because they can't afford it. But see, the thing is, though, is the fact that in America, if you get sick and you have health insurance, and it's good health insurance, if your copay is higher, that means your deductible is lower. If your copay is lower, then your deductible is higher. You see what I mean? I think that's how it works. Yeah, if the copay is lower, then the deductible is higher. So essentially, if you want cheap insurance, you'd have to have a high deductible, like a high copay. A high copay with a high deductible if you want cheap. If you want low copay, low deductible, then that would be a super expensive one. And also American health insurance is extremely strict. If you're a smoker, that counts against you. If you if you have proven health problems, that'll count against you, all kinds of stuff. Now, life insurance, see, I'm 40 years old, all right, and I have no illusions about living forever. The way I think of it is that as far as death goes, death comes for us all. It's a fact of life. Nobody lives forever. And I want to know that my family is taken care of in the event that something happens to me. Either old age, sickness, car accident that results in a fatality, something like that. I want to know that my family's taken care of in the event that something happens to me. So that's the reason why I'd want life insurance. And essentially a will, like a last will and testament, to make sure that any assets that I leave behind are distributed, sold, assets from said sale distributed evenly, stuff like that. So I know it's kind of a morbid thing to talk about, but it's also about planning for the future. I know it's not a very pleasant topic, but at the same time, I feel people should discuss it. Because once you make your final wishes known and you make it airtight, like make sure that you are certified competent to make decisions like that, so this way it can't be challenged later on. All right, now, here's the thing. Point number 18, and this is the biggest one. After everything else is paid for, the last step is setting up passive income while my wife and I have real jobs and dividing the rest of the money evenly 4 ways. My idea is to divide any remaining money 4 ways. 1 would be the house and the cars. 2 would be my daughter. 3 would be my wife, and 4 would be myself. So say, for instance, if anything happens to the house, like a blown roof or HVAC needs work, that's where funds for account number 1 come from. If the car needs maintenance, like say brakes need to be fixed or tire needs to be replaced or alternator goes out, that's where the funds come from point number 1, from account number 1. My daughter's account is going to be locked, and it'll be a high yield savings account, possibly a money market account. And it will be locked until she turns 18. The only way she can access these funds after she turns 18 is to go to a university or trade school and use these funds as necessary. Now, the thing is, though, is the fact that I want to essentially provide for my daughter in such a way that when she turns 18 and she goes to college, that she doesn't have to stay at home anymore. She can actually move out and get on with her life. That's the idea. Now, am I going to tell my daughter about this? Maybe. See, the thing is, though, is the fact that I don't want her to spend the money on frivolous things. So I may set up the account where she would actually have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt what she intends to spend the money on, and she can only take out so much at a time, like $1,000 here or $2,000 there or something like that, and like 2 transactions a month or something like that. So she doesn't become totally dependent on it, but at the same time, she doesn't spend all the money either. I still want my daughter to work. I still want my daughter to have a job, especially when she's in college and university. But at the same time, I want her to have that safety net. So if anything bad truly happens, she has something she can rely on. That's the whole point of it. Now, the account for my wife, the account for myself, will be split in half. The one half of the account will be like a regular checking account, debit account. The other half will be high yield savings. So essentially, half of my wife's account will be high yield savings, half of my account will be high yield savings. So essentially, reason why I say high yield savings is because that's one way to generate income. It's not very much, but if it's like 1% of the total amount per month or per year or something like that, that's 1% you didn't have before. So it generates money, just not much. Now, essentially, when you combine all this with the secured credit cards mentioned earlier, this means my family and I will be on very firm financial footing. As far as passive income goes, that can be split between two different parts, which is the high yield savings and my series. Now, the way I think of it, since YouTube has quite a few issues, I want to instead post to locals. There I could charge a small fee, say $5 a month per subscriber, and on locals, people can not only see the show, but also get my detailed notes on the completed immigration procedure. My idea is that I will film everything ahead of time, yet limit the releases to one new episode per week, like they used to do on TV a long time ago. Doing things this way ensures that people come back for more. On YouTube, I will simply make a very short video telling people the summary of the episode, and that if they want to see the whole thing, that they need to subscribe to my locals, as YouTube is quite strict on what can be posted. I believe that since this series is unique, there will be many people who will want to see it. Can I predict how much money can be made off the series? No, I can't. The reason why I can't predict how much money can be made off the series is very simple, because of the fact that it's not, talking about the latest, greatest AI, whatever. Okay, this is not about border hopping or trying to apply for asylum after illegally immigrating to the United States. No, this is legal and legitimate immigration using approved methods. So it's a very, very niche market, and I can't predict how much, if any, money can be made off of this series. Now, moving up. So, stretching things out a bit, as mentioned earlier, will allow my series to run for at least 30 weeks, like one new episode per week, if not longer, depending on how long the entire immigration process and processes in the United States takes. I do plan one more additional episode called Keeping Up with the Hans, Where Are They Now?, about a year later, so people can see how well we settled into our new lives in the U.S. Now, there's one more thing I want to go ahead and show you. See, I live in this small room, all right? I'm going to show you here. This is the room that I live in. There's the bed, that whole bed, and then there's the little area right there, all right? This bed right here, all right, if you see, this bed is 1.8 meters wide by 2 meters in length, all right? Now I want you to see, I sleep at the foot of the bed, all right? The little square area is where my daughter usually sleeps, but she's getting a little taller now, so it won't be that much longer before I'm forced out of the bed entirely. And my wife sleeps right there between, if you see that one, you see where that little toy taxi is, my wife sleeps about like that. And essentially, there's not a lot of space here in this room. So here's the thing. You see this space right here. This is where I sleep, all right? That's where my daughter sleeps. This right here is where my wife sleeps, all right? There's not a lot of space here at all. This is where we've been for the past almost going on 6 years now. This is my daughter's desk, all right? Desk, little walking area, bed, all right? We've been in this room going on 6 years. And it's not enough space for 3 people. It's not enough space for 3 people. It's not. Now, my wife's family does have a spare room available, and I'll show that to you. See, I keep the door locked just because I like privacy. So I'm going to show you the spare room. Now, currently, the time is about, almost 1 o'clock, 12:34. So I guess I may have to start my study session soon. So here is trash can. hamper for our clothes, hamper for my daughter's clothes, and this is a spare room. Now this spare room is deliberately kept available because my wife's parents want to keep this room available for guests, even though they know that my daughter needs her own room as soon as possible, but they prefer to keep it open for guests instead. So yeah, there's a whole separate room right here that's not being used for anything except guests when they show up. Has air conditioner and everything else, but yeah, this is a spare room that my wife's parents have that they refuse to give to my daughter because they prefer to keep it open for guests. So yeah. And then here's the bathroom. Doesn't look like much, but there's the toilet, there's sink, little shower, and that little nozzle down there is the exhaust for the AC in the other room. So yeah, that's the bathroom. And that's the Wi-Fi router, in case you didn't see that earlier. And of course I have the do not disturb on here. Got that from Cardamom Hotel and Apartment, Cambodia, when my wife, myself, and my wife's parents went to Cambodia back in 2018. So yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and read the last point and then get ready to go ahead and do something else, because it's already almost 1 o'clock. So, all right. So you all saw the bed. You all saw the spare room. So that means I'm going to go ahead and talk about the last point here. So I wanted to go ahead and I showed you the room. The bed's 2 meters in length by 1.8 meters in height. As you can see, it takes up almost the entirety of the room. This is the same room that my wife, daughter, and I all live in. My wife and I have lived in this room since we moved in almost 6 years ago. 6 years this October. My daughter has no choice but to share the bed with us, as her grandparents refuse to give her the spare room. To them, it is more important to keep the spare room available for guests than to give it to their granddaughter for her exclusive use. Things are very difficult now for my family and I, as we have no idea how long we'll be living with my wife's parents. I need to move my family out of my wife's parents' house ASAP and give my daughter her own room so I can sleep next to my wife instead of laying horizontally at the foot of the bed while my wife and daughter sleep vertically. Not my house, not my rules. So I cannot really fault my wife's parents. I actually blame myself for not earning enough money to move us out of my wife's parents' house sooner. See, I've not been able to work for an English center here for long periods of time due to severe levels of abuse I suffer at their hands. It's not physical abuse, but psychological, extremely toxic work environments. Here in Vietnam, when a foreigner stands up for themselves at an English center, you tell them that you have rights and you can prove those rights successfully, suddenly you receive complaints that didn't exist before, and you get fired via constructive dismissal, which is a real term. And it's essentially the business version of a controlled eviction. The older I get, the worse it gets. And like I said earlier at the beginning of this video, I've not had a job since November 2024, and it looks very unlikely that my family and I will ever leave my wife's parents' house. So, oh wow, look at that. It's already been 1 hour and 14 minutes. So, in closing, to be completely honest, I don't expect people to fund my series because I'm not a business. I have no assets which can be used to borrow against, nor can I guarantee any profits whatsoever. Plus, the fact that I'm male, I'm a guy. I'm not black, indigenous, or a person of color. I'm just a fat guy, 120 kilos at 176 centimeters tall, married, unattractive guy who wants to go back to work in the U.S., even if it's at McDonald's while his wife and daughter have a good life. My goal isn't really to become wealthy. I just want to go back to the USA with my family by my side. That's it. So I don't really tick the boxes that would generate interest among some people. Because like I said, I'm not female, I'm not black, indigenous, or a person of color, or anything like that. So I think the interest for my series is going to be quite low. Plus the fact I'm not trying to talk about or generate the latest, greatest AI or whatever, so I put the odds of rejection at about 99% because of the fact of everything I just said earlier. So I want to take these last few minutes on this video to simply go ahead and talk about the fact that yesterday there was the lottery and someone won the Power 655 grand prize jackpot number 1, which if a U.S. citizen had won after paying taxes to the United States and to Vietnam, would have walked away with about $1,240,000. And I watched that money disappear yesterday because I didn't win, obviously, or else I wouldn't be making this video right now. So I play the lottery because I have no choice. To not play the lottery means that I accept living in this house, that I accept that tiny space at the foot of the bed, and I don't accept it. I make this series because I don't accept to live in this house the rest of my life. I want to move out. I want to move my family out. I want us to have a life apart from my wife's parents. I want us to move on with our lives. And as long as we live in this house, I feel like we're never going to have that. It's like my wife does work, but she doesn't make very much. And I don't work at all because I'm not allowed to. Now, I can understand protecting some jobs, but at the same time, if you have a foreigner that speaks English naturally and wants to work an English-speaking customer service job, you should give that foreigner a job. Don't make up some bullshit excuse about how, you need to be a citizen to do this job, or, you're not going to like this salary because it's not what an English teacher makes, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about the salary. I just want to work a job that actually makes me happy. That's it. That's all I want. Now, like I said earlier, I know that McDonald's, Burger King, Sonic, Walmart, places like that, yeah, they're not meant to be careers, and I understand that. But I'd rather work a job like that than to stay unemployed here in Vietnam. See, I've lived here as a foreigner for over 7 years, and I feel like I'm still being treated like a tourist, not someone who can contribute meaningfully to Vietnamese society. I'm not allowed to work local jobs. I'm not allowed to pay local prices in some cases. See, when some people see me, they charge me foreigner tax, which is essentially, let's charge this foreigner more because we think he makes more money than us, even though I don't make any money at all. And if I know for certain that I'm being overcharged, I will say something. I don't know a lot of Vietnamese, but if I think I'm being overcharged for something, I will say something. And normally that either gets me the local citizen price or that gets me vendors who are upset that I know they're trying to screw me over and I'm not going to take it. Now see, Vietnam is great if you're ultra wealthy. Like if you're wealthy, you're ultra wealthy. If you're a tourist, Vietnam is great. But if you're like me, you don't have a master's or a doctorate in a highly specialized field, you don't have a bachelor's degree, then it's livable, but that's about it. I mean, you're not allowed to work except white monkey jobs. It's livable, but it's not any place I want to spend the rest of my life in. I want to come home to the United States and I want my family by my side. I feel that living in Vietnam is untenable for me. Because like I said, I've lived here over 7 years and I still feel like I'm being treated like a tourist and not a person who wanted, past tense, wanted to contribute meaningfully to the Vietnamese economy. See, a long time ago when I first moved here, I told people that I wanted to live here forever. I want to stay here forever. Vietnam is great. But then after living here for as long as I have, my opinion has completely shifted 180 degrees into I want to go back to America, but I don't want to go home alone. I want my family to come with me. Now, to be very clear, in front of one and all, especially if you made it this far, do not get me wrong, do not misinterpret, do not misquote me. I love Vietnam. I love the government of Vietnam. I love the people of Vietnam. And you hear me say that. You see me, you hear me say that. And I mean every word of it. However, I personally feel that, like I said earlier, me living in Vietnam for the rest of my life is an impossibility because of the fact that I'm not allowed to work except for white monkey jobs, and I refuse to humiliate and debase myself to earn a salary. I'm not doing it. So that's all I have to say about that. Now, if after seeing this video, you're a venture capitalist, you're an angel investor, and you actually do want to fund my series, $2 million is a lot of money. That's true. But at the same time, I feel that that will cover everything and give my family a great shot. Now, I will cover this exact 18-point message in any correspondence I have with any venture capitalist or angel investor that's interested in my show. The one thing I will say, though, about my series is that I will retain direct control. Essentially, what I'm looking for is a silent partner. I want direct control. I want essentially total control over it. All I want is a silent partner. And I want, royalties. If I actually get a series professionally made from it, I want royalties from it. But if not that, I want at least $2 million up front so I can film the entire series from start to finish. So it's been almost an hour and a half, almost 1 p.m. here on Friday the 14th. Oh wait, yeah, today is Friday the 14th of August, 2026, and it is 12:46 p.m. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and say that if you actually stuck with me through this entire video, congratulations. Normally people only watch like 2 or 3 minutes of my video and claim they watched the whole thing. But, if you watch the entire video, great. I created this series, the concept for this series, I created this series because of the fact that I have no options. I'm not allowed to work here in Vietnam. Jobs in the United States won't hire me for remote work because I physically don't live in the U.S. I'm not allowed to provide for my family. The only option for employment is white monkey work, and I believe that I shouldn't have to debase and humiliate myself to earn a salary. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I deserve to work. I deserve to provide for my family. Now, at the bottom, you're going to see information that talks about this video, that talks about different ways you can donate. Check the bottom, and you'll see different ways you can donate. Cryptocurrency, PayPal, and my Vietnamese bank account. If you need more information, reach out to me. My email address is tuxedoshadow@gmail.com. tuxedoshadow@gmail.com. Reach out to me if you want to donate, and I'll help guide every step along the way. So, this is Yunli Han, pitching the idea for Keeping Up with the Hans, my series that I want to create from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, saying have a good day, be safe, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Peace.